Welcome to our trash revolution.
I'm so upset. Oh my God.
The guy.
All right, welcome to the Young Turks. Cenk Uganica sparing with you guys today. We got a lot of stories for you, including significant drama.
I love drama.
Elon Musk versus Donald Trump. What the Jesus?
Hot goss.
Okay, fun for everybody. And wait, I was given to understand that people inside the Trump camp would never disagree with one another. Huh? That is so weird. I wonder who was right and who was ridiculously wrong.
Look at Jake coming in hot, trying to provoke folks.
Yeah, no, I don't mind provoking them. Hey, dumbasses who thought that no one on the side of Trump would ever disagree with him. What happened?
Okay.
Okay, you were a billion% wrong. I was right. I was right.
10-2.
Hashtag suck it. Okay, so we're going. Okay. So, anyways, we'll get into that fight, and then of course the budget's a disaster, as usual. Gaza is a disaster. We've got a lot of show for you guys today, but at the end, for the members, we're doing Operation Joy today, right?
Are we?
Okay, finally, I need it, and that's what I was going to tell you guys. Members, get ready, because for the first time, I want you guys to cheer me up, okay? Ooh. Yeah, because look, I mean, there's a lot of things going on, and I'm in an interesting mood, as you can tell. Today, for some reason, the camel's back, if you will.
Wait, okay. What is going on? What?
Broke with me.
Oh, okay. A straw broke the camel's back.
Yeah.
Okay, what was the straw?
No, I don't know what the straw was, but like, I'm tired of being called an anti-Semite. I'm super nova tired of it. From bad faith people who don't mind tons and tons of Muslims being killed, murdered, etc. No, I'm not the bad guy. Sorry, and I have to always like, okay, but like, I'm sorry, but you're a super bad guy if you think all those dead Palestinians are no big deal. You're a super bad guy. So, but I know we're not allowed to say it. We're not allowed to say it, but we're gonna say it many times in the show. So let's get started.
Well, we're actually gonna start with an entirely different topic, but we do have a lot today on what's happening in Gaza. Before we get to that though, I wanted to get into this.
Let me say this, it's very disappointing, okay? I've come to consider Elon a good friend. He's obviously a very intelligent person and he's done a lot of great work. With all due respect, my friend Elon is terribly wrong about the one big beautiful bill.
Spoiler alert, not only is Elon Musk not wrong about the so-called big beautiful bill, he and Mike Johnson doesn't seem like they're really friends. So let me get into the latest updates on this, quarrel that's playing out between Elon Musk and the Republican caucus in attempting to pass this bill, which would, of course, add to our debt and deficit. Now,
but Anna, I gotta interrupt for a second, because let's be honest, it's not just about the Republican caucus. Elon Musk is definitely taking a shot at Trump. Trump says this is his most important bill, and it's true, it is, because this is where he's gonna get paid, and all of his donors are gonna get paid, and all the rich are gonna get paid. So to him, this is the most critical bill. So Elon trying to torpedo it is a massive piece of drama between the two principal players. The reason Elon is saying Congress and congressional Republicans instead of Trump is he's trying to tone down the drama by like 2 inches, 2%, right? But we know, yeah, they're definitely now in loggerheads.
No, shots are being fired. So let's start with House Speaker Mike Johnson, who's now fighting this all-out war with Elon Musk, and that's because the former head of Doge has been taking some pretty massive shots at Trump's big beautiful bill. Now, let's rewind for just 1 second to kind of explain how we got to this point. So during a recent interview with CBS, Elon Musk stated that he was disappointed with Trump's big beautiful bill. Here's what he had to say about it.
You know, I was like disappointed to see the massive spending bill, frankly, which increases the budget deficit, not just decrease it, and undermines the work that the Doge team is doing.
I actually thought that when this big beautiful bill came along. I mean, like, everything he's done on Doge gets wiped out in the first year.
I think a bill can be big or it can be beautiful, but I don't know if it can be both. My personal opinion.
So after Elon Musk said that, Mike Johnson went to a laundromat, watched all of the machines spin so he can engage in the spin cycle. Totally tried to spin this entire situation, writing on X. The House made sure to build on Doge's success within the one big beautiful bill. Stephen Miller has made an important point, no he hasn't, about the two efforts. Doge found savings in discretionary spending, such as funding agencies, while our one big beautiful bill secured over $1.6 trillion in savings in mandatory spending such as Medicaid. So there you have Mike Johnson clearly admitting that Republicans secured some pretty deep cuts to programs like Medicaid in order to give even more handouts and tax breaks that disproportionately benefit the richest among us. And yet, by the way, the big beautiful bill would do exactly what Elon Musk is warning about. It would blow up the deficit, even worse than we already have it. So the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget estimates that the bill would add $3 trillion to the debt, including interest over the next decade. The Congressional Budget Office had similar figures. Every analysis of the big beautiful bill shows that it will add to the federal debt, which currently sits at $36 trillion and cost us $1 trillion just last year in order to service. So this is an issue. Now, that didn't stop Mike Johnson, by the way, from going on NBC's Meet the Press over the weekend to just brazenly lie to the American people about what the bill actually does. Take a look.
Remember, in the first Trump administration, the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, the CBO was off in its estimates of that one by $1.5 trillion, okay, because they underestimated the incredible growth that would be brought about. This is going to be jet fuel. The reason we call it the big beautiful bill is because it is a tremendous pro-growth package entwined in this legislation that is going to make everybody's incomes go up. There's going to be more job opportunity.
It is worth noting that some budget experts say that in 2017, actually, the CBO was pretty right when you adjusted for inflation. But let me read you something that you said back in 2021 about the CBO. This was in relation to a Democratic bill. You said the CBO has confirmed this bill adds nearly $400 billion to the deficit, contrary to the White House's claim that the bill is paid for. So do you only believe the CBO when a Democrat is president, Mr. Speaker?
No, this is very easy to explain. The CBO sometimes gets projections correct, but they're always off every single time when they project economic growth. They always underestimate the growth that will be brought about by tax cuts and reduction in regulations.
Let's talk about economic growth briefly, because there's a little trick that Republicans like House Speaker Mike Johnson play. Economic growth for whom? Because an increase in the gross domestic product, the GDP, doesn't necessarily mean that that economic growth is benefiting American workers. The same bill, the big beautiful bill, has a provision included that prevents states from regulating artificial intelligence. And we already know artificial intelligence is going to be a disruptor in the job market. Many people are very likely going to lose their jobs as a result of AI replacing them. States aren't going to have the ability to do anything to mitigate that damage because this bill includes a provision preventing them from doing so. So while he talks about, oh, this is going to create so many new jobs, is it though? And these new jobs could be employed through AI technology.
Yeah, so let's start to break it up. First of all, I hate that it's called a big, beautiful bill. That's so dumb. It's almost like defund the police. It's like nails on a chalkboard for me. Why is it beautiful? Because it cuts taxes on the rich? Wow, that's so beautiful.
Well, Elon Musk agrees with you, Cenk, and he wrote just today, "I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. The massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong, you know it." And even went as far as to call for every Republican who votes for the bill to be primaried, saying in November next year, we fire all politicians who betrayed the American people. And I'm gonna give you Johnson's response to all of this in just a minute, but Cenk, why don't you weigh in?
So there's two very positive things happening here. Number one, they're recognizing that it adds money to the debt. Oh, thank God. So Republicans have been lying my whole life about, oh no, when we seem to create $4 trillion, $2 trillion, $5 trillion in extra deficits and debts, it doesn't really count. Later, there will be a laugher curve. Well, all the rich will laugh at you and pretend that more money came in later. Ha ha ha. And now there's a bunch of Republicans, Rand Paul, Ron Johnson, Elon Musk, et cetera, going, no, it's actually gonna add $4 to $5 trillion to the debt. So now there's a huge caveat to that in their point of view, right? But at least they're acknowledging that, and that is breaking the gaslighting, and it's super important because then it's one thing when the left says, hey, this adds $4 trillion to the debt. A lot of no MAGA believes that if the left says it. And some independents believe it, some independents don't. But even when other Republicans and other folks on that team like Elon Musk say it, then almost all the independents go, oh, okay, I guess so, it is true. They are adding at a minimum 3.8 trillion to the debt. So that's huge. Number two good thing is they're fighting. And that's not like a fake fight like they've had in the past with like, oh, golly gee, the Tea Party would like you to be more conservative. Oh no, Republicans don't want more tax cuts for the rich. Well, golly gee, we agreed on more. No, it's not one of those, okay? They're actually fighting. And so that's positive because at least one side is showing some of the ugly parts of this agenda, right? So now, okay, where's the giant caveat? They still, don't get them wrong, don't get any of this twisted. All of the Republican leaders still are in la-la land where they think they're going to find $4 trillion in spending cuts. Like none of them have talked about not doing the giant tax cuts for the rich, except Ron Johnson miraculously, right? And we covered that on an earlier show. But outside of that, they're like, oh yeah, man, we're gonna find spending cuts.
No, Cenk, you're being way too generous. No, they don't actually believe they're gonna find $4 trillion in savings. They don't believe it, they never believed it, they never intended to balance the budget. Balancing the budget has never been a priority for either party. I'm just gonna be honest with you about that. And that, yes, that includes Republicans who tend to pretend that they care about the deficit and the federal debt the most. I think that there are voters who are concerned about the deficit, who are worried about the $36 trillion debt, especially considering the fact that we're now spending $1 trillion a year to service it. That is a problem, but hold on. They just want their tax cuts. They want to do a favor for their donors. This is what their donors want. And let's not forget, a lot of these members of Congress are very wealthy themselves. They want a little bit of a tax break as well. I don't believe for a second that they actually think they're gonna find $4 trillion in savings.
No, that's why I want to be very clear. So there's two teams here, Team Trump and Team Elon, right? So Team Trump is actually old school uniparty establishment politics in this case.
In this case, yes.
Right, in this case, they're like, hey, you know what? They're doing exactly what Anna said. Oh, it's magic. We'll do $4 trillion in tax cuts, mainly going to the wealthy. We won't cut any spending. We'll add spending to the Pentagon and to other places where you wanted to cut, and we'll just cut from the poor, Medicaid, and that won't be anywhere near enough because we're going to gorge on tax cuts. So that is classic Republican uniparty establishment strategy. Now you go over to Team Elon with Rand Paul and the others, right? That team is now saying, okay, everyone else is right, the CBO is right. Yes, it does add $4 trillion to the deficit, okay? So that's a huge admission that the Republicans never do, right? But Anna, they're still, that's the team that's pretending there's $4 trillion in spending cuts.
And let's not forget,
because none of them, literally none of them say, other than Ron Johnson once said it, and I bet he takes it back, are saying maybe we shouldn't do gigantic tax cuts for the rich.
Correct, okay, then I agree with your analysis 100%, because I don't want anyone to make the mistake of thinking Elon's the good guy here, because while Elon is correct in noting that this adds to our federal debt, he is correct about that. His priority is not to balance the budget by doing away with the unfairness of the tax policy that's included, which again leads to less revenue for the federal government because of the major tax breaks that again disproportionately benefit the rich. Now, I want to be fair and also note, Trump is trying to make good on his promise of no tax on tips, and based on reporting, the provision related to that would basically allow those in the service industry to earn up to $25,000 in tips that will not be taxed, which is pretty huge. $25,000 is huge.
There's a chance that
they might take that out though. Let's keep it real.
No, that's exactly what I'm getting to. There's a chance that Team Elon is worse than Team Trump. So right now they look better because they're at least acknowledging, yes, we are adding $4 trillion to the debt, right? And so that's a huge moment. But probably what they'll do in the Senate, what are they going to take out? Something for the rich? No chance.
There's no
0%.
chance. Those are the donors.
0%. Elon, Rand Paul, all those, every one of those guys work for the donors or are the donors and are stupid rich. And they're like, no way. The most important thing is tax cuts for billionaires.
Right.
Number one priority, always for every single Republican of my lifetime, period, okay? So they're never gonna change that. So what they'll likely do is go, well, it is too much in spending and cuts, so we're gonna have to take out the tax cut on tips and overtime.
I would not be surprised. I honestly wouldn't be. So let's keep a close eye on that, because that'll show you what the real priorities are, not just for Elon Musk, for the Republican Party as well. Now, in response to these criticisms coming from Elon Musk, Mike Johnson was actually responding to Musk's comments in the video that we showed you at the very top of this segment. But here's where things get interesting, because Johnson also accused Musk of acting out of self-interest. Wow, shocking. Not like Mike Johnson, by the way, is acting out of self-interest, or anyone else in Congress is acting out of self-interest. I want to go to the video and then get your response.
Okay.
Take a look.
I've said this many times, I'll be saying it until we get this thing over the line. This is the most amount of money that any government has ever saved on planet Earth in a piece of legislation, ever. It's a very important first start. Elon is missing it, okay? And it's not personal. I know that the EV mandate is very important to him. That is going away because the government should not be subsidizing these things. It's part of the Green New Deal, and I know that has an effect on his business, and I lament that. We talked about the ramp down period on that and how that should be duly considered by Congress, but for him to come out and pan the whole bill is to me just very disappointing, very surprising in light of the conversation I had with him yesterday.
Do you think that it's Tesla is what's driving this? Is that what you're suggesting?
I'm going to let others draw their own conclusions about that, but this is not personal between any of us. I just deeply regret that he's made this mistake.
Look at this little gangster over here, right? Like, hey, Elon, we know those federal tax subsidies for EVs mean a lot to you. Be a real shame if something happened to that provision, right? And guess what? He said EV mandate. What he was referring to were the tax subsidies for those who buy EVs. And apparently, it was something that started in the Obama administration. The federal government had offered Americans $7,500 in tax credits on electric vehicles, and that tax credit was originally going to expire in 2032. But the big beautiful bill includes a provision that changes the expiration date of that provision to the end of this year.
So that is a huge blow to Tesla and electric vehicles. So now let's break it down. Look, this is why it's important that you watch an honest show, so we can tell you who's lying and who's telling the truth about different things, okay? By the way, Democrats included, of course, as you all know. In this case though, this is why the fight is good, because now Elon Musk and Rand Paul said something true about Team Trump, which is they're gonna add at least $4 trillion, maybe $5 trillion to the debt, right? Now Ron Johnson is saying something true about Elon Musk. He's saying, well, he is a donor. And apparently he's that's between the lines, right? But we took away his tax credit, so now he's mad.
And they added a fee to EVs.
Yeah. So that is true.
Yeah.
That is so Speaker Johnson's correct about that. They did do that. That is a provision in the bill, and I'm positive that Elon Musk is furious about it, right? So when you see Elon Musk going off on the bill, is it partly out of self-interest, as Mike Johnson's saying there? Absolutely.
Definitely.
Absolutely. He wanted more goodies, more breaks, which by the way would have added even more to the deficit, right? So, and that makes sense. That's what donors always want. They always want to rob the taxpayer for their own benefit. That is 90% of the reason why donors, especially corporate donors, give money to politicians, period, right? So you see how good the fight is, because it's revealing, not to us, we already know, but to the right-wing base, hey, maybe Elon's acting out of self-interest. Hey, maybe this is gonna add $4 trillion to the debt. Now, let's go to what is the correct answer, what the American people want but have no chance of receiving. So when I talk to MAGA about this, when I get to, hey, what are we giving extra tax cuts to the rich for? They hate it, they don't agree with me, right? They're like, no, we need tax cuts and the rich need to get it the most, okay? And later, I swear they told me they're gonna give me a job.
Right.
And it's gonna pay really well, like 10 or 20 years from now. And then they promised to trickle on me, and I'm waiting for that trickle, right? By the way, you guys know that you could actually just give it to the middle class instead. I know that's never occurred, that thought has never occurred to a Republican politician or to anyone in right-wing media. And that is why right-wing voters don't know you could actually do economics called middle out, where you give things to the middle class and they spend money and create a virtuous cycle in the economy, which is much, much more likely. Instead, we're going with the dumbass plan of giving everything to the top and go, well, yeah, they'll hoard most of it.
Isn't that good? Isn't it good when rich people hoard the money and don't use it to stimulate the economy like working class people would?
Of course it's not good, but every liar in media pretends that that's a real idea. Every liar in politics pretends that's a real idea. No, trickle down economics, supply side economics is a joke. It's literally never worked in my lifetime. It's just a shady excuse to give more money to the rich because they're the ones who donate it to the politicians. Now, so MAGA is totally unconvinced about the point that I just made, hardcore MAGA. But they make the same mistake that like Biden and Kamala Harris supporters made, which is, oh my God, Queen Latifah endorsed Kamala Harris, so we're gonna win. Because I really like Queen Latifah and I really like Kamala Harris. Oh, I think Joe Biden's young, so everybody thinks Joe Biden is young. And in this case, they think, well, I want tax cuts for the rich, so I'm sure the country wants tax cuts for the rich. No, they don't, including Republican voters. 76% of Americans say raise taxes on the rich. Raise taxes, don't cut them, bring them up, not down. 3/4 of Americans believe that. But do you ever see that in American media?
I don't.
Never, never. Why? Everyone in TV is spectacularly wealthy. And that's the very last thing they're gonna tell you is that the American people wanna raise our taxes. They're not gonna ever say that. And so are they actually cutting the taxes for the rich? Guys, I'll give you one stat. We've given you many before, but I'll give you one today. People making above $500,000 are going to get a $1.7 trillion tax cut. Why? Why do people making above $500,000 a year need an extra 1.7 trillion? Is the middle class is okay, the poor are okay in America, everybody else is totally fine, but we have to go out of our way to give another couple of $1 trillion to the very, very, very top? Why? And of course the answer is because almost everyone in Congress got bribed. And finally, the last part of this is, at the very end of this drama is when the Democrats appear, okay? And at the end, they come into Congress all singing together, arms locked together going, there was nothing we could do. There was nothing we could do.
I mean, in this case, there really isn't much they can do. You know, they don't hold a majority in either chamber. Yes, I agree that even if they did hold majorities in either chamber, that's when they would claim there's nothing we can do when there clearly is.
So no, but I hear you, and they really don't have the votes. Okay,
like I love beating up on Democrats, but in this case, I think it's a little unfair.
No, it's not unfair.
Every single Democrat voted against the bill. Well, the Democrats who showed up voted
If they
against
needed the votes, I guarantee you they would have found corporate Democrats to get those votes. I guarantee it. Because why? I've seen this movie 100 times. I've been covering politics for a quarter of a century. Every single time the Republicans go, no, it won't add to the deficit, as we're now at $37 trillion in the deficit. And every single time Democrats go, oh, we are going to vote against it, it is terrible. Oh, look at that, a couple of people flipped over, or they didn't need it, and there was nothing we could do, there was nothing we could do. And so, Anna, what can they do? Just real quick, you could fight them rhetorically. There should be an army of Democrats on the air now going, what are you giving 1.7 trillion to the rich for?
No, Hakeem Jeffries is on it, okay? He told him already, like, you're gonna find out. You're gonna find out.
That's hilarious. But you see what I'm saying? Whether it's that stat or any other stat or fact, right now, it should be in every American's heads, 1.7 trillion, 1.7 trillion to the rich, 1.7 trillion to the rich. So whenever they think of the so-called big, beautiful bill, they think, oh, that's 1.7 trillion to the rich, right? How many Democrats are making that point? Well, no, I was gonna say zero, no, but Bernie makes that point. AOC these days makes that point. So a couple of them, a couple of progressive populists do, right? But the rest of them are like, I can't wait for my donors to get those tax cuts. I mean, Trump bad.
Yep. Well, we'll keep an eye on the story. For now, we got to take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll get into Chuck Schumer trying to goad Trump into a war with Iran because he's a terrible person.
All right, so let's do this. Let's go to tyt.com. Wang Johnson writes, and I'm sorry, but who invited the youth pastor? Oh wait, that's Mike Johnson. Okay, Art, he does seem so diminutive. Art Guy said, hoping for Trump's sycophantic backers to peel off and go to war with him appears to be the only strategy for keeping him in check. I mean, it's not like there's another party that could do the job, right? But Art Guy, like, A, you're right in your sarcasm about the Democrats, but B, why do you think I went with the strategy that I went with immediately after Trump got elected? Okay, you think that the Democrats are gonna stand up to Trump? No, the only possibility is that the right-wing base, because of the new media, begins to turn on him when they realize, oh, this is nothing but a scam, right? Is that a possibility that's very, very likely? No. Is it easy? No. But is it possible, as you're seeing with your own eyes here? It is possible, and we have to push in that direction and keep asking them hard questions. Do you want to balance the budget? Apparently you don't. Okay, if you want to cut $4 trillion in spending, what do you want to do? You want to cut Social Security and Medicare? I dare you to say it. Say it out loud, see how it turns out for you. Then you'll actually find out, right? Oh, right, you want tax cuts for the rich, right? So that's what we have to do, and that's partly what's happening now. America needs a reboot says, I'm kind of feeling that color Anna's rocking.
Thank you. This is my telling Alex Jones to get off the stage dress. And also my I don't care what the Bible says dress.
All right, that's a big dress.
It's a big dress.
It's a
well, it's a little
dress,
but it's a dress.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's true. Okay.
Don't say it's a big dress.
I hear you, that's for me. All right, well, suits. Anyways, this is funny and awkward. Okay, maybe that'll go in a museum one day. All right, Cabbage writes, and GOP spends the most mainly because they're the only party that does anything, even if it is deficit-driven accomplishments. Yeah, like the Republicans do bad things, Democrats do nothing. That's why the country, at least policy-wise, Washington-wise, goes further and further and further right-wing because the Democrats secretly love it and don't do anything. Occam's Aftershave says, thanks to this big, beautiful bull, I've come to finally understand how Trump went bankrupt 6 times, including a casino.
For real.
He's simply incapable when his money is not regulated. Actually, he bankrupted 3 different casinos. I believe he's the only person who's ever accomplished that in the history of the world.
I heard debt's really important when it comes to businesses and corporations in America. It's good to have debt.
That's what he says, because he says-
No, that's what every business says, apparently. Like it's a thing in the business world.
No, it's way more complicated than that. The rest of us have to pay our bills. Trump's the only one who gets to go, oh, I don't know, I'll just make somebody else pay it, which is what he thinks he's gonna do with America, but that's not really how it works at a national level.
So beautiful.
As Musk's prophet says, this is why I love Cenk, a true example of humility. He's kidding, of course. Okay.
You told people to suck it.
I did.
At the top of the show.
Yeah, and look, I do have humility from time to time. In fact, I'm the best at humility. No one beats me at humility. Yeah. Okay, you guys get it. All right. Aselcito47 says, Anna looks beautiful as usual. Cenk, you look good too. Thank you, I'll take it. Liberal, this is hilarious title. Liberal Wiener Lover writes in, all the love to you, Cenk. Thank you.
I just love you.
Thank you, Liberal Wiener Lover. Okay, we have fun on this show. Churche Delanosa says, Cenk, don't sweat it, anti-Semite is near meaningless now. I'm starting to take it as a compliment when calling out Israel's actions on the world stage. That certainly is fair, and they've turned it into a compliment in the most disastrous way. We'll be back.
Anti-Semitism.
All right, back on TYT. Cenk, Anna, and Kathleen Cepeda. Kathleen, thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. Anna.
Chuck Schumer, he's at it again.
When it comes to negotiating with the terrorist government of Iran, Trump's all over the lot. One day he sounds tough, the next day he's backing off. And now, all of a sudden, we find out that Witkoff and Rubio are negotiating a secret side deal with Iran. What kind of bull is this? They're going to sound tough in public and then have a side deal that lets Iran get away with everything? That's outrageous. We need to make that side deal public.
Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer thinks it's actually a great idea to goad the Trump administration into war with Iran instead of signing a new nuclear deal to prevent a military conflict. I don't really understand what's left to support within the Democratic Party. Why are you trying to encourage Trump or discourage Trump from signing a nuclear deal? Now look, Schumer was responding to reporting from Axios indicating that the Trump administration is in fact considering allowing Iran to enrich small quantities of uranium, or more importantly, a new nuclear deal that would bring small amounts of enriched uranium into Iran for their energy needs. And that would prevent them from building a nuclear weapon, but would obviously help them with their energy needs. Now, that deal would be similar to the Iran nuclear deal that former President Barack Obama managed to accomplish back in 2015 in his second term. That deal, as we all know, was ripped up by President Donald Trump in his first term. Since then, Iran has upped its uranium enrichment to around 60%, according to the International Atomic Energy Agency. Uranium that is enriched to 90% is considered to be weapons grade. So obviously time is of the essence. It's important to enter a deal to prevent the construction of these disastrous weapons. And wow, isn't that shocking that as soon as you rip up the Iran nuclear deal, Iran starts moving toward building a nuclear weapon. Now, you think that Schumer would want to pursue diplomatic means by re-entering a new nuclear deal to prevent a possible war with Iran. In fact, that was something that Biden had even campaigned on back in 2020. Take a look.
I understand what's at stake and understand the consequences of failing to act. That's why, as president, I'd renew our commitment to arms control for a new era. The historic Iran nuclear deal we negotiated blocked Iran from gaining nuclear weapons, with inspectors on the ground, international inspectors confirming that the agreement was being kept. Yet Trump cast it aside, prompting Iran to restart its nuclear program, become more provocative, and raising the risk of another disastrous war in the region. If Tehran returns to compliance with the deal, I would rejoin the agreement and work with our allies to strengthen and extend it while more effectively pushing back against Iran's destabilizing activities, which under the agreement we were allowed to do and we had partners to do with us.
So Biden lied, that's what he said on the campaign trail. Once he became president, he did no such thing. And it probably had to do with the fact that Israel pressured him to avoid re-entering a nuclear deal. Israeli officials have also made clear that they intend to raise concerns about restoring the JCPOA. That was the original Iran nuclear deal. Israeli news outlets reported that Yoshi Cohen, chief of Mossad, will travel to Washington and press Biden to make changes to the JCPOA. Well, changes didn't even need to be made because we didn't re-enter a new nuclear deal with Iran. And now things have devolved so severely that the Democratic Party is now trying to, I guess, discourage Trump from pursuing diplomatic means. Take a look.
Yesterday, I called out President Trump for, on the one hand, telling the public his goal is to fully dismantle Iran's nuclear facilities, but then on the other hand, secretly negotiating a side deal that will allow the Iranian regime to keep enriching. Well, it looks like we got his attention because he followed up by denying this report in an all-caps tweet storm. The old saying is, trust but verify. In this case, Congress must verify. The administration must clarify what they might be hiding from the American people in this secret side deal. Steve Witkoff and those negotiating this deal should testify before Congress and answer a simple question. Is there a secret side deal that will allow the Iranian regime to continue enriching uranium and that empowers the regime's nefarious activity or not?
In other words, Schumer is literally taking credit for Trump's about face, his statement just yesterday on Truth Social after backlash from neocons, which of course want to go to war with Iran. He wrote, the auto pen should have stopped Iran a long time ago from enriching. Under our potential agreement, we will not allow any enrichment of uranium.
That's the neocon position.
That's the neocon position, but Schumer is taking credit for pushing Trump in this getting closer to war with Iran direction.
Well, that's because he does deserve credit, but in an ironic way, which we'll get to in a second. So first, we're doing a poll in the live chat here because we've got a diverse audience. I'm curious if anyone is going to vote in the opposite direction here. Should the administration sign a nuclear deal with Iran? 10% say no, interesting, but 90% say the logical thing. Of course we should, right? Why are we going to war with Iran?
For the 10% who say no, I hope you're enlisted and I hope you enjoy.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, but they're more likely to be Israelis who want us to enlist.
I hope you're enlisted and I hope you enjoy.
Yeah.
Okay. Americans shouldn't be fighting a war on behalf of Israel.
Okay, so I'm going to get to that as well. So why do we say from time to time that Democrats are liars? I don't mean the voters, I mean the politicians, the leaders, because they're liars. So what Trump is considering doing. Before that True Social post that Anna read you, Axios had the story. We were reporting in the middle of the show yesterday that he was thinking of doing this deal with Iran. That's why Schumer and the neocons are flipping out, right? So that deal is very similar to the Obama deal, the deal that Joe Biden said he was going to get back into, but he was a liar and he didn't get back in that deal, and there's no excuse for it. He barely even tried. You see Trump trying here with all of its problems, and he goes back to the neocon position, but at least you see him trying. Biden didn't try at all. Why? It's amazing, they just say it. I mean, you saw it in a news story there. The head of Mossad, the secret intelligence group, like the CIA of Israel, went to, first of all, isn't that outrageous?
It is outrageous, yes.
Like, imagine if like, oh, hey, France is going to make a deal, but the head of the CIA goes and talks to their leader, and then all of a sudden they change their position. You'd be like, what did the CIA say to Macron? That seems kind of like, whoa, we must have some stuff on Macron there to get him to change his position entirely. But here, since Israel controls everything and no one is allowed to question them without getting smeared in America, they could just say it in public. Oh yeah. Our head of Mossad went and told Joe Biden who's in charge. Not him, Mossad is in charge. And no, you're not going to go back into that Obama deal, even though you said you were going to. Shut up and do as Israel tells you, okay? So you're seeing it with your own eyes. Then Chuck Schumer, aren't you thrilled that he's going to go back into a deal that is similar to Obama's? That's what you all wanted. You said you wanted it, right? Now all of a sudden Chuck Schumer, no. Oh, this is a terrible deal with Iran, the terrorists. We must fight that war on behalf of Israel. Oh, I didn't mean on behalf of Israel. On behalf of America, for what? Which Americans want it? What are we gonna get
Yeah.
out of a war with Iran?
Listen.
Other than trillions of dollars we're gonna spend like we did in Iraq and tens of thousands of Americans dead. For what? For what? So because Israel decides that Iran is their #1 enemy and they're gonna make our intensely corrupt Democratic and Republican politicians do exactly as they're told. So that's why when Schumer says we got Trump to change and go back into not doing the deal with Iran, he doesn't mean we as in Democrats. Trump couldn't give a rat's ass what Democrats think. He means we as in the Israeli lobby. And the Israeli lobby showed we're in charge. And there's another layer to this, Anna, too. They keep talking about how it's a secret side deal. First of all, every peace negotiation is secret until you have a deal. So what does it mean that it's secret? They're saying it's secret from Israel, not from the public. They're saying, this is a side deal. Wait, why is it a side deal? It's us and Iran, the two major powers here in this particular case, right? They're saying, no, how dare you keep it a secret from Israel? And how dare you not involve Israel in this deal? Israel decides what deal America makes. And that's what Democrats like Schumer and Biden say. That's now Trump has switched his position. And he's back to, yes, sir, Netanyahu, sir. Yeah, of course, sir. Did the head of Mossad come? Did the head of Mossad come? No one in America wants this war. The only entity that wants this war is Israel. So if we go to war, I'm telling you ahead of time, Israel pushed America into this war. That is 100% what they want, and now we're gonna see how much they control our politicians.
We're gonna see, look, I already know the extent to which the Israeli government has influence over our government. The question is, do they have the same stranglehold on Donald Trump, who's got more ego than other politicians?
Yes.
And I would like to believe that his pride wouldn't allow him to be publicly dog-walked and humiliated the way that Biden was. But so far, he has been, with one exception, which was making a deal with Hamas to release that one American hostage, and doing so without the inclusion of Israel.
No, there was the Houthi.
And the Houthi, yes,
and
correct.
And Israel already commanded him to attack Iran.
That's right.
And he didn't yet.
Trump, this is where, in my opinion, I'm seeing some positive developments, right? Don't get dog walked and force American soldiers to engage in a war on behalf of Israel. We'll wait and see what happens, but I actually think it is a good thing that they're, based on some reporting, pursuing diplomatic means to prevent a war with Iran. So final thing I'll say about this. Look, I've already given up on Democrats like Chuck Schumer, which is why he doesn't trigger me. I already know he's trash, okay? But the one contribution I'll make in terms of commentary on this is, there are a lot of rumors about AOC potentially running for president, which I personally think is insane. I think it's premature. I don't think she should do that. Please, for the love of God, primary Chuck Schumer in the Senate. She's not fantastic on foreign policy, but she's better than this.
Way better, not close. I'll take AOC over Chuck Schumer any day. On issues like this and many other issues. Schumer is just worse for the donors, and it's not just Israel, it's pharma, oil, anyone can buy Chuck Schumer. But to be fair to Chuck Schumer, anyone can buy 90% of our politicians. All right, my last 2 points are, look guys, remember this, the reason why I'm so adamant about this is because there's no downside to this deal. You end their military nuclear program so they can't have nukes, and we don't go to war. Where's the downside? There's no downside, right? The only downside is Israel wants us to attack for them, so they don't have to risk their soldiers and they don't have to use their money. So they want to make us do it. So, but America has zero upside. And finally, MAGA, let me ask you this. So you see us criticizing Democrats like Schumer and Biden very, harshly because we're honest. Are you going to do likewise for Trump, or are you going to be a good little boy? And if Trump goes with the neocon position because he got more campaign checks and more deals and got seduced by some insane, ludicrous Trump Riviera idea, because God, that is so stupid. Are you gonna go back and go, oh yes, we would love war, we love war, woohoo, yay, let's go bomb Iran for Israel, because Daddy Trump told us. I don't know, the jury's out. You're gonna make that decision, And I'm very curious to see how that turns out. But so far, Trump hasn't made the final decision. So if he makes the right decision, I give him all the credit in the world, and the left can cry all they want about it. I don't want that war. That war's a disaster, okay? If he goes to the neocon position, then he's a bitch. And let's see if MAGA's honest about it.
When we come back from the break, we'll talk a little bit about how a children's content creator has become a target for Israel's staunchest defenders. And it is an insane story. Don't miss it. We'll be right back.
All right, here we go. So let's go to our members. Dirge, Trump, you stopped Iran from not enriching uranium. That's true. Trump is the one who got us out of the Obama deal in the first place. But by the way, though, look, what I try to do is I try to encourage any little strand they have of doing the right thing, right? So if Trump now gets to say, I stopped the enrichment of Iranian uranium, yeah, sure, go ahead, take the credit. I don't care. We'll worry about credit 10, 20 years from now. I said, well, he shouldn't have gotten us out of the deal in the first place. Yes, that's true, but push him to do the right thing. Oh, you would be amazing. If you stop the war, you might get a Nobel Peace Prize, right? Stuff like that. And if you think that doesn't work with Trump, you haven't paid attention to Trump, right? But you got to get it in his ear in the right way, right?
It just feels, look, I'm gonna be honest with you all. I don't know if it happens during Trump's administration, but it just feels inevitable that we're gonna end up going to war with Iran. It's just so frustrating because this corruption has infected both political parties.
And it's not just that, Anna. You remember why they went through a period where I could not stop talking about how much I loathe mainstream media, right? It's because look at the liars. Look at the liars. So tell me, anybody on CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, ABC, CBS, all of you guys, have you talked about how Israel wants us to go to war with Iran?
They never do.
If you don't talk about that, you're lying. You're lying to your audience.
They allow the framing of, Iran poses a national security threat specifically to the United States.
Yes, say it. Which one? How, you liars, how? Nonsense.
They chant death to America, so obviously they are a threat to our national security.
Yeah. It's just all they do is regurgitate Israeli propaganda and pretend that it's news. So they're like, if media actually did its job, oh my God, the country would be up in arms right now, right? But the media goes, no. Everybody calm down, be good little boys. Remember, Israel wants a war with Iran, so we're all gonna pretend that it's about our national security. Okay, by the way, Iraq was not part of Al Qaeda, but at the time, Israel said Iraq was their #1 enemy. We invaded Iraq. Now they're replaying that same exact movie with Iran, but
Jake, to be fair, Israeli intelligence, I mean, this is where Israel comes in as our special important ally. Israeli intelligence, Mossad, told us that Iraq had biological weapons and we must invade.
Oh yeah, this is what I'm like, when do we get the $311 billion back from Israel? They're like, no, they're such a special ally. They give us intelligence like we should attack Iraq and we should attack Iran and we should kill as many Muslims as possible on behalf of Israel. What valuable intelligence.
Yeah.
It's a joke. Anyone not calling out the massive power of Israel in American politics is an unbelievable liar and the exact opposite of a reporter. Woman's liberal bias says, watching live a rare occasion here over my 10 years as a member, an unexpected evening alone. I think I'll even stick through Operation Joy. Absolutely can't have a sad jank. Here's what's cheering me up tonight. Nachos, a joint, and some live TYT.
Can I hang out with you?
I know.
Maybe I'll even best night.
And they said, maybe I'll even get my comment read. Boom, okay, there you go, I love it. And Christina Salazar also said, so ready for Operation Joy. We all are, that's tonight for the members, okay? We're gonna have a great time then, we'll be back. All right, back on TYT, Cenk and Anna with you guys. In Guns We Trust wrote in on a super chat, Israel's losing support fast. Dave Smith and peers just embarrassed an Israeli lawyer, Natasha Hausdorff. You, Dave, and Finkelstein are a light in the darkness through your influence. Thanks for not backing down to evil and smears. Yeah, thank you for saying that. By the way, that Natasha.
It was so good. It was so good.
So I wish you guys could see the UCLA debate I did with her. Some choppy video and stuff. But so if she's theoretically an international lawyer, I embarrassed her.
She's embarrassing. She got totally trounced in that debate with Dave Smith. But honestly, most of the debate was between Piers Morgan and herself, and it was just it was so embarrassing. The lies she told. She was asked point blank, does Israel have nuclear weapons? Which, like, why are we pretending like that's even a secret? Everyone knows Israel has nuclear weapons. And she like pretended like she didn't know. Like, it's just hilarious.
Yeah, and so she's like, in the beginning of the debate with me, she started with legal stuff, etc. And I beat that back. And then eventually she got so desperate, she's like, you're a parasite.
She's the one who called you a parasite?
Yeah.
Okay, she tried to throw cold water on the story involving the Palestinian doctor who lost 9 out of her 10 children in an Israeli airstrike. She's like, well, there hasn't really been any confirmation. There hasn't been an investigation into it. Maybe it's not true.
Have you been there?
Have you been there?
Have you been there?
No, just, you're a woman. You're embarrassing, okay? Absolutely embarrassing. Imagine trying to pretend as though a mother who just lost 9 out of her 10 children might be making it up, might be lying. Disgusting. Yeah. These people disgust me.
Gee, I wonder who's telling the truth, a mom with verifiable evidence or the IDF, literally the biggest liars in the world.
I'm glad she's on the record, man. I'm sure history will look back kindly at who you are and what you were willing to spew on behalf of Israel's government. All right, well, let's move on to the next story. You ready?
Yep.
Let's do it.
YouTube kitty star Miss Rachel, I understand, also standing with Hamas.
Leaders, be so ashamed of your silence. Be so ashamed of your anti-Palestinian racism. So ashamed that you don't see Palestinian people or their children as the same as us and our children.
Laura, why is everybody suddenly an activist? Now she's kitty care at the Foreign Relations Committee. No one wants to hear that from Miss Rachel.
Well, that was Fox News contributor Raymond Arroyo, who's very offended that a content creator for children on YouTube named Miss Rachel has compassion for Palestinian children. And Raymond, if you're curious why Americans are so concerned about it, it's because our taxpayer dollars are used to slaughter innocent children, women, elderly people, civilians in Gaza. We see images and videos of it on a regular basis. And if we're funding it, we have the right to comment on it, criticize it. In fact, even if we weren't funding it, I would still comment on it and criticize it because we live in America, bitch, and we get to say what we think about what's happening in our country and around the world. And if you don't like it, turn it off. But just because you're not hearing your pro-Israel propaganda 24/7 doesn't mean that you get to try to silence someone who disagrees with your take, which is essentially Israel gets to do whatever it wants, break every international law, commit every war crime imaginable, and slaughter innocent kids in Gaza, which is what they've been doing since the beginning of this genocide. Go ahead, Cenk.
2 quick things about it. So first, the reason why they want to shut down people like Miss Rachel, and then why Douglas Murray says, have you been there? And they always do the thing about, you're not an expert, okay? Why? They have, almost all of our politicians work for Israel. Almost all of our media works for Israel. So you need non-politicians and non-media figures to speak out like Miss Rachel, right? And by media, she does media as well, but not news. So when someone is not controlled by Israel and they speak out, they're like, get her off. Okay, no, not an expert, have you been there? Anti-Semite, get her off. She has no expertise, no way, don't listen to her. Go back to listening to propaganda that we have perfectly ready for you on mainstream media. Go listen to Dana Bash, go listen to Fox News. Don't worry, right wing, left wing, we got it all covered. Democrats, Republicans, we got it all covered. 87% of Congress is funded by AIPAC, congressional members. So just listen to the corrupt, Do not listen to good people who want you to protect children. And then look at the hypocrisy. You shouldn't listen to any celebrities. Next up, Kid Rock. Woo! Kid Rock's on our side. And Hulk Hogan.
It's so true. Aaron Rodgers. Like, we like celebrities weighing in on politics or policy when they agree with us. Otherwise, shut up. But by the way, honestly, Raymond, keep going, because all of this backfires, and they're too dumb to see it. Because when you, like, just think about how stupid you have to be to specifically comment on that video featuring Miss Rachel, where she's talking about innocent children getting slaughtered with that sweet voice that she has. And you're like, oh, well, how dare she? How dare she? Okay, keep going, okay? Every attempt at silencing Americans who have a legitimate concern over the barbarism that's currently playing out in Gaza has backfired on Israel supporters. So if you guys want to keep playing this game, keep playing the game, because these efforts to censor people have not been working for good reason. Now, again, Miss Rachel had the audacity to say on her social media platforms that kids shouldn't starve to death or be killed, whether they're American, Israeli, or Palestinian, which shouldn't be controversial, but apparently it is for Israel's staunchest supporters. She recently spent time with a 3-year-old girl who devastatingly is a double amputee as a result of the barbarism that's taking place in Gaza. Her name is Rahaf, and she lost her legs in Israeli airstrikes and was luckily medically evacuated to the United States. Other Palestinians aren't so lucky when they need medical care. So you saw the photo of the two together. It was a really sweet video. And in response to bringing joy to kids like Rahaf and speaking out on their behalf, Arroyo decided to mock her. Let's take a look.
Mr. Rogers in our day, he didn't start lecturing kids about Russia or Iran or the nuclear threat. That's not your job. And I worry, everybody feels they have to get on the activist bandwagon now. Miss Rachel, you don't know anything about the Middle East, the Middle East, the Middle East. Maybe we have to just kind of, speak in the vernacular.
We think Mr. Rogers actually did weigh on some foreign policy issues and things like the Cold War. We're double checking right now, but I wouldn't expect Raymond Arroyo to know the facts about anything he's talking about. He's just there to spew propaganda on behalf of Israel. Now, the mockery didn't end there. Laura Ingraham also attacked 22-year-old Greta Thunberg for literally risking her life by embarking on an aid trip to Gaza. So let's take a look at that.
How is it possible that Greta's crying?
No matter how dangerous this mission is, it is nowhere near as dangerous as the silence of the entire world in the face of a live-streamed genocide.
If only we had silence. How did she go from climate change to Gaza? Wasn't she doing climate change? Her repertoire keeps getting. Did she go on the bow and say she was queen of the world?
So just going back to Mr. Rogers briefly, in 1983, he talked about the Cold War on his kids show.
I have more.
Go ahead.
Rogers, this is from HuffPost. Rogers was an uncompromising pacifist, and when Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood debuted nationally in 1968, during the height of the Vietnam War, he used his first week of programming to share his anti-war beliefs.
Interesting.
Oops.
Wow.
You might want to look it up first, dumbass.
Okay. So, but just getting back to Greta Thunberg, who, again, you have these incredible people who are risking their lives to try to deliver aid to Palestinians in Gaza. And Senator Lindsey Graham commented on this on social media. Let's take a look at his post where he says, "Hope Greta and her friends can swim." It's so funny. It's so funny killing innocent people. We love it. We can't get enough of it. You're a piece of crap.
Because Israel, they'll kill anybody. They'll kill children. They'll sink your boat for no reason. Why? Because you disagree with them. If you disagree with them, they'll murder you. Hey, that's our special ally. Let's give him another $20 billion.
Now look, there have been many attempts to shut down Voices for Peace in Palestine. In fact, attempts to shut down Voices for Peace in Palestine were put on overdrive, okay? After the horrific attack that we covered on this show earlier this week, that was the attack in Colorado on peaceful demonstrators in Boulder. This happened over the weekend. Luckily, no one was killed, but the perpetrator tried to burn people to death. It was awful. And people like CNN contributor Scott Jennings decided to exploit that horrific, event in an effort to censor anyone who's calling for the freedom of Palestinians. Take a look.
This is horrific. And what more do we need to see, Jake, before we realize this Free Palestine movement is nothing more than a domestic terror organization right now? I mean, we had the killings in Washington a couple of weeks ago. We have this issue in Colorado. We've seen, the activities on college campuses now for months and months and months and months. The rise of anti-Semitism in America, the rise in the number of people who have come to America who hold anti-American views, anti-Western views, and anti-Semitic views and are now willing to act on it. It is absolutely outrageous.
I don't appreciate the conflation of anti-Israel views being anti-American views. You can be anti-Israel and still very much supportive of the United States, its government, whatever it is.
Yeah,
but he's doing that intentional conflation to make it appear as though anyone who's critical of Israel is anti-American. No, they're not.
Yeah, hey, Israeli propagandist. Actually, you know what's anti-American? Israel. When Israel says, hey, give me $300 billion, go to fight the Iraq war for me, start a war with Iran for me, get your boys and girls killed for me, give me trillions of dollars in expenditures in Iraq. I want you to attack all of my enemies in the Middle East. And hey, propagandist, I want you to get everyone in America to hate Muslims. I want you to start basically an ideological war between America and 1.6 billion Muslims for no goddamn reason other than Israel doesn't like Muslims. Israel likes taking Muslim land and slaughtering Muslims while they're taking that land. So we'll get everyone in America to hate Muslims, and that will help Israel's purposes. Will that help America? No. No, it's gotten us into a conflict with a third of the world for no reason other than Israel asked us to. Israel wants it. Israel, Israel, Israel. No, Israel is not our ally. They've taken, and given nothing back. Nothing at all. With allies like this, you don't need enemies.
Yeah.
And in terms of his comment about domestic terror organizations. So now if you say Free Palestine, you're a domestic terrorist.
Yeah, we know what's happening here.
Everyone has to be racist against Palestinians. You must be racist. If you're not racist against Palestinians, you're a terrorist, okay? No. Scott Jennings is a piece of crap. He's filth. And the fact that over 30,000 women and children have been killed, he thinks, oh, that's great, that's not terrorism. Because those are just Palestinians. Their lives are worthless.
Yeah.
We just slaughter them on behalf of Israel, because we fund this genocide. So, but we're not the terrorists. Israel's not the terrorist. Israel propagandists like Scott Jennings and Arroyo are not the terrorists. No,
terrorist sympathizers.
Yeah, they're massive terrorist sympathizers. You don't get any worse than the terrorism that Israel has done in Gaza. How many children are you going to slaughter before it's obvious that it's terrorism?
Well, look, I just want to go to someone who's been super based on this topic, and I can't get enough of his commentary on it. And in fact, he has weighed in on these efforts to censor pro-peace demonstrators in America. Let's take a look at what Dave Smith had to say just today on Piers Morgan's show.
If you remember, there was this example of the guy in Florida who is being charged with attempted murder right now because he shot 2 people who he thought were Palestinians. Turned out they weren't, he was wrong. But I would never use that as an example in one of these debates and say, aha, pro-Israel person, you're responsible for that. Right. I'm a free market libertarian, free market capitalist guy. There was a Bernie Sanders fan who shot up a congressional baseball game several years back. I would never use that in an argument and say, you're responsible for that, because it's the cheapest, lamest form of argument. You are not responsible if you're telling the truth for as you see it for some crazy person committing a horrific act of violence. By the way, we're talking about ongoing innocent people being killed for over 20 months at this point now. So like that's what the whole conversation is about.
I couldn't have said it better myself. He's absolutely right about it. It's obvious that the horrific event that happened over the weekend is being exploited specifically and cynically to silence legitimate criticism of the government and military of Israel. And no one should allow these scare tactics to influence what they're saying publicly, because you are seeing what your eyes are seeing in Gaza. You're hearing it, you're seeing it. It is horrific, and we are funding it. We have the right to speak out against it, and no one should get to silence us because of the fact that we're being critical of the Israeli government. We get to be critical of our own government, foreign governments. We have the First Amendment, and as long as we're not inciting violence or engaging in violence, we're good. Anyone who's trying to infringe on our First Amendment rights needs to shut the F up, period.
Yeah.
That's it.
And that Natasha Dumkoff that he was debating, I debated her at USA Law, as explained earlier in the show. And since she's supposed to be an international lawyer, she got, of course, she was destroyed by our side because she has no leg to stand on. So she resorted to calling me a parasite.
Yeah.
And that was, by the way, second in a row of an Israeli supporter dehumanizing their opponents and going, me is specific, and calling me a parasite 2 times in a row. What do you do with parasites, right? See, this is now literal Nazi language. Yeah, I'm saying it. It is Nazi language they use against their opponents. And they say, oh, what? We're not allowed to slaughter over 16 to 17,000 children? We're allowed to slaughter, whoa. We're not allowed to starve children to death? Of course, blood libel. If you accurately point out the number of children we have murdered, we're gonna pretend you're anti-Semitic for pointing out a fact of what Israel has done. By the way, it's not Jews. Israel, the government of Israel has done it. And lastly, if you wanna see an absolute dismantling in a debate about Israel, watch the one we have on our YouTube channel on the Young Turks. Me and Dave Smith combined versus Dennis Prager and Batya Ungar-Sargon, okay? We dismantled Dennis Prager. So go check it out and see what a debate looks like when you got a fair fight.
All right, sorry. All right, we gotta take a break. We'll be right back with the second hour. I wanna move on to some other news, including, pretty significant crash out when it comes to Donald Trump support among a very specific demo. We'll tell you what that demo is and more when we come back.
Every day, the Young Turks delivers 2 hours of solid, fact-based, timely news and progressive commentary on all the day's most important stories. We keep our viewers informed while also providing perspective and insight on the news we cover, so you understand not only what's happening, but also what's happening behind the scenes, the stories behind the stories.
We play musical chairs and put these children in one awful detention facility to the next. That's what's happening at the border.
The things that got him banned, he's still spreading. So presumably, I think it's reasonable to say that if you allow him back on the website, he's going to do it again.
Any legal voter that we deem not willing to vote for my side shouldn't vote because it'll replace me that's supposed to vote for my side. That's not how voting works. That's not how democracy works.
And while many people following today's political news can get discouraged about the direction of the nation and the world, that's not us. At TYT, we're genuinely optimistic about the future, and with good reason. Today, wide majorities of Americans agree with our progressive stances on issues ranging from healthcare and education to climate, immigration, and wages. The rising generation of young people are also overwhelmingly progressive in their political beliefs and policy objectives, and they're increasingly flexing their muscle as voters and activists to demand change from our elected officials. The traditional mainstream media is mostly AWOL. They, along with the government and many other cherished institutions, have been captured by corporate interests. Audiences sense that they're not getting the whole story or even the truth from once trusted outlets, whether broadcasting cable TV news networks or national newspapers and magazines. The antidote is the Young Turks. Unlike mainstream corporate outlets, we're not beholden to corporate advertisers, to defense contractors, to Wall Street, or to Big Pharma, and we don't carry water for the Republican or Democratic parties. So watch us Monday to Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, and join the thousands of progressives around the globe who tune in every day for TYT's unmatched, award-winning content and see what it's like to experience a news organization that only answers to you.
Indisputable exclusive. Exclusive, disputable, exclusive. We brought you this first. No other news agency has this video. No other news agency has this story.
Every week on Indisputable, we do original, exclusive, investigative reporting you'll find nowhere else.
Our reports have been viewed by millions. Hosted by Sean King, Ben Crump, Senator John Ossoff.
You, through your investigative reporting, unearthed very troubling allegations about specific forms of abuse and discrimination in the federal prison system.
We catching these cases on camera. Just imagine the things that we don't see.
Our groundbreaking investigations and exclusive interviews bring you the real voices no one else wants you to hear. We tell the stories.
Imagine a prison that is so racist, the corrections officers contact me. That is a life or death situation being created. A black woman who was driving for Uber was allegedly assaulted by a white male passenger. After we got involved, roughly 24 hours later, the police all of a sudden opened up an investigation. What was going through your mind when bullets were simply flying inside of your vehicle?
Honestly, I thought I was going to die.
Did these officers ever say that you fit the description of somebody they were looking for? Did they say that?
Never.
Okay, that means they lied.
And we want you to be part of our truth-telling movement. Send pictures and video of stories no one else is telling and a 1 or 2 paragraph summary of the story to Indisputable's exclusive tip line at indvideos@tyt.com.
If you have more information about what's happening at this particular facility, please let me know.
Together, we're challenging the system, and together, we're making a difference.
I have the entire background to this story, and it is going to make your blood boil.
Indisputable with Dr. Rashad Ritchie, unveiling the truth, empowering the people. Weekdays at 2:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Pacific.
I don't have teleprompters here, folks. I don't need teleprompters. It's called like up here, and it's called memory, and it's called other things.
You know, I'm like a smart person.
All right, back on TYT, Jen and Anna with you guys. More news.
You know, we all have habits. And the question is, will your employer give into your habits or will they fight your habits? And Cenk, I want you to pay close attention to this story, okay? All right, let's do it.
President-elect Donald Trump has indicated that he will break from tradition and so will not receive daily briefings from the intelligence community. In an interview on Fox News just last week, Mr. Trump said, and I quote, "You know, I'm like a smart person. I don't have to be told the same thing in the same words every single day for the next 8 years."
Briefings are boring. I don't want to do them anymore. And that video, by the way, was actually from 2016. All right, so it looks like old habits die hard because now a new NBC News report claims that National Intelligence Director Tulsi Gabbard is actually thinking about turning her intelligence briefings into like mock Fox News segments in order to get President Donald Trump to pay attention to them. Which, you know what? I will allow it. If she's willing to go the extra mile to get Trump his briefings and to get him to pay attention,
yeah,
cool.
Yeah, I hear you, but it's pathetic that our president doesn't want to read. Pathetic. It's also pathetic that the Democrats lost to that buffoon twice. It's pathetic that we have to put on a freaking circus to get him to pay attention. Here, Donnie, here's a puppet show. Here's a little clown. Oh, and then they're having problems in Gaza. Boink, boink.
No, but that's the thing that's actually kind of shocking about this. I would kill to be in on those briefings.
Exactly what I was thinking, Anna.
I'm so interested, and like the fact that he's not that's the part that really does worry me. Now, look, he might have, attention deficit disorder. I have no idea.
I don't care, then don't be president.
Exactly, because we're talking about intelligence on national security threats, on conflicts abroad. He claims that he wants to bring these 2 major wars, one in Ukraine, one in Gaza, Gaza, it's a genocide, but he wants to end those two things, right? Okay, well, you need intelligence briefings, you need to pay attention.
Yeah, Anna, it's funny you said that because that's the same thought that popped into my head. And we're the fairest show in America. So I was reading how much the other presidents, including Democratic presidents, got daily briefings.
I have those details.
So you give the numbers and then I want to give you my thought on it.
Okay, so traditionally the PDB, so that's the president's daily brief, is written up and then verbally presented to the president. So it's not even that the president has to do a lot of reading, right? He just needs to pay attention to Tulsi Gabbard as she tries to give him info through these briefings. Now, but Trump does far fewer compared to other presidents. So since his inauguration, Trump has taken the presidential daily brief 14 times, or on average less than once a week. An analysis of their public schedules during the same time frame from their inauguration through May during their first year in office shows that former President Joe Biden received 90, Trump received 55, and former President Barack Obama received 63. I don't believe that Biden actually received 90.
Well, I mean, Jill Biden, to be fair, and Anthony Blinken received 90 presidential daily briefings.
That's fair.
Okay, so that's why I was saying we're the fairest show, because I mean, why did Obama only get 63? I mean, Obama golfed way too much. I know Trump smashed his records on golfing and not caring about the presidential daily briefing. But if I was president, I'm like, do I want to know the intelligence you have on the world? Yeah, every day. That's the point of being president. You're commander in chief. These guys are like, Trump's like, oh, I got to read one page. No, he doesn't even have to read it. You have to verbally tell me about one page once every other week. Oh, boo, so boring. Oh, I have to do commandering in chiefing. Oh, boo. Can you guys set up a clown show for me so I understand this better?
And that's what Tulsi Gabbard's gonna do for him. It's amazing. So look, I commend her for her effort and just her enterprising attitude here, okay? Because this is what she's gonna do. According to 5 anonymous sources, Gabbard and other intelligence officials are brainstorming ways to make Trump's briefings more Trump-friendly. One idea has been discussed, or one idea that has been discussed, is to transform the presidential daily brief so it mirrors a Fox News broadcast, according to 4 of the people with direct knowledge of the discussions. The National Intelligence Director's office could hire a Fox News producer to produce it and one of the network's personalities to present it. Trump, an avid Fox News viewer, could then watch the broadcast PDB whenever he wanted. I mean, I would prefer he does it in a timely fashion, considering it's intelligence on what's currently happening. So we don't want it to be stale when he finally gets around to it. So a new PDB could include not only graphics and pictures, but also maps with animated representations of exploding bombs, similar to a video game. Another one of the people with knowledge of the discussions said. But this idea is not entirely unprecedented for the United States government as a whole, believe it or not. So according to NBC News, Charlton Heston had narrated instructional videos for the US intelligence and military services. Like, I don't think it's the same thing. I'm not even gonna pretend like it's the same thing. We're talking about the President of the United States and direct briefings for the President of the United States on important matters around the globe, okay? It's different from, oh, we need to make this training video for the military a little more entertaining. So let's hire a celebrity to do it. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. So look, come on guys. Look, if you're MAGA, I know what you're gonna think. You're gonna think, oh, I never believe anything. If it's inconvenient, I'll choose not to believe 5 people inside the Trump administration, who, by the way, corroborate everyone inside the Trump administration the first time, right? They all say the same thing. He has trouble reading past the page, and the last time they put in more pictures and maps. Okay, it gets, every layer of it is more embarrassing. And by the way, again, we'll be fair about what I think is more reliable and less reliable. So there's a story in there that they're like, okay, this time though with the maps, in order to get him to pay attention, for example, to the Ukraine war, where he's reluctant to get the details of what's happening in the war, they're putting little bombs in there. And they're saying, well, what if we put it in the bombs in the video like a video game? and then maybe we can get the child president to pay attention, right? So you can say, hey, you know what? Some of those outlandish details, maybe it's a guy who doesn't like Trump, but is in Trump's administration, or maybe there's 5 guys like that, maybe, right? But overall, the fact that he hates the presidential daily briefings, doesn't like to read, and they all have an enormously hard time getting him to focus on doing his job when it comes to national security. That's not disputable. Literally everyone inside the White House in the first term and the second term. I don't mean literally like as in Stephen Miller has agreed to this article, and they're certainly not saying it publicly because Trump will take their head off and MAGA will take their head off. But we're talking about dozens and dozens of sources between the 2 terms who all say the same thing. He doesn't want to hear it. It's boring to him. That's why Tulsi Gabbard's trying to dress it up and get a Fox News host to go, listen, Donnie, here's a little bump, boof, okay? And now there's another conflict here. It's a continent called Africa.
But hey, look at Tulsi Gabbard creating federal jobs.
Man, you are looking at the upside of it.
I'm just so deeply amused by this. But more than anything, again, what stands out to me the most is like the lack of intellectual curiosity. You get what I'm saying? And how much I would love to be in on those briefings. I would give anything to be in those briefings. I wanna know. I wanna know what's actually going on.
Yeah, and can we elect someone smart that cares, that actually wants to do the job, not to be famous, not to be rich, not to own the libs, not to
You can own the libs and also be smart.
Whatever, I don't care about the stupid partisan tribal stuff. Someone who actually cares about America and wants to protect America and wants to do the job. Instead of just wanting to be famous or collect checks from AIPAC or Qatar or wherever.
Well, we're gonna have to wait and see if we'll eventually have a, kind of like a smart person in the White House. For now, though, we've got Trump and he gets bored easily. We gotta take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about where he seems to be losing the most support among, the demographics that supported him in the last election. We'll be right back.
And then they say, there's Donald Trump, an intellectual. Trust me, I'm like a smart person.
So let's go to Super Chat. Last overdue Bachelor says, Fox News talks about Muslims like she read half a Quran from a Chick-fil-A napkin, always terrified of Sharia law, but somehow fine with school shootings and poverty. If Islam cured cancer, she'd still ask if it was halal-approved terrorism. And then he adds morons. Also wrote in, funny how anti-Semitism now means you exposed Israeli war crimes. If I were an independent journalist in Gaza, I'd honestly feel safer around Hamas monitoring me. At least they wouldn't turn my press vest into a bullseye like the IDF does in 4K. So look, I don't know to what degree you would survive with Hamas. I do know that you would not survive with the IDF. The IDF has murdered more journalists in Gaza than all other journalists killed in action in the rest of the world combined, okay? They make Putin look like he's kind to the press. That's how many journalists Israel has murdered. And yes, it's murder, it's sniper shots. They clearly see the giant press on their front, in their vest, and then they murder them anyway. And not anyway, they murder them because they're journalists and they might report on Israeli terrorism, war crimes, and genocide. And that's what sick fascists do, and that's why they're doing it. Yvonne says, hugs Cenk from the UK. TYT, keep up the good work on your Gaza reports. Thank you, Yvonne, appreciate it. Titan wrote, in my final years in the military, I saw extremists become more prevalent, and I do worry. I would always enlist if I could go back. It helped escape a dark future, but I could never enlist under today's conditions. This country doesn't give a damn about its people. No, it doesn't, but on the other hand, oof, man, we are super concerned about another country. Like, isn't it amazing how obsessed American politicians and American media are about Israel? That how we have to cater to them. We must give them everything they want. And no one on TV ever asks, why? Why? Why do we have to? Why are we not obsessed about Norway? Why are we not obsessed about Kazakhstan? Or an important country? Why are we attacking Canada, but we have to give everything in the world to Israel?
Yeah,
AIPAC being the #1 donor in politics, not relevant, not relevant. If you state facts, you're an anti-Semite, national media reporter, okay? God, they're the worst reporters in history. Everyone in mainstream media should retire en masse immediately. And by the way, they could go back to their, to Israel and go and do propaganda there. Don't worry, you'll get hired there, okay? Literally, you could take every cable news host, bring them to Israel, and they would feel very at home, and Israel would pay them. Just get out of our country or represent American news and not what we must do for another country. Okay, anyway, tonight we got Operation Joy, so this is perfect time to be a member. You guys are already writing in, love it, so stick around. We'll do that in about 40 minutes. Oh, by the way, write in at tyt.com/joy, tyt.com/joy. That's throughout the week. Anytime you want to go in there and write great stories and read them. Ring the bell, that helps the show. So right on the video on YouTube. Subscribe for free, and if you want to join, we'd love you for it. Join button's there as well. Check out Shop TYT. By the way, look, I do those ads for Shopify because I mean it. Shopify helped us set up Shop TYT, so shopify.com/TYT. They can help set up your website to sell merchandise. I love those guys. All right, we'll be back. All right, back on TYT, Jake and Anna with you guys, and Ramon, gifted 20 memberships on YouTube. Ramon, you're awesome. Thank you, brother. Anna.
Trump's crashing out with a specific demographic that actually supported him in the last presidential election. Let's get into who those people are.
We truly believe that the Republican Party platform 100% is what the Latino community needs.
Donald Trump is going to help the country with the economy.
Right now, I feel kind of, bad because the economy, since January to, January, February, March, so far is really, really slow, the business.
President Donald Trump received unprecedented levels of support from Latino voters during the 2024 presidential election. After years of these voters specifically and overwhelmingly backing the Democratic Party. But the support that Trump enjoyed just a few months ago seems to be waning, and that's according to new data that I want to share with you now. So independents in particular are not happy with what they're seeing. And independent voters, in my opinion, tend to be easier to sway because they're more wide-eyed about both political parties and their flaws. So let's take a look at this. Among independents, Trump's approval rating dropped 14 points from 43% in February to 29% in May. And that means he's now 28 points underwater with Latino independents. All right, so let's take a look at the next graph, which will show you that among all Latino voters, his approval rating has dropped from 43% to 39%. And that means his net approval is underwater at minus 18 points. So the drop in overall approval is reflective of how Latino voters feel about Trump's handling of the economy. And remember, that was the main reason why they broke with the Democrats to support Trump in the last election. They felt that he would be better for the economy compared to Kamala Harris. But they might be regretting their decision to vote for him now. So let's take a look at how they feel in regard to Trump's handling of the economy. Among all Latino voters, just 38% hold a positive view. So it's less than half, obviously, and that's compared to 58% who disapprove. So 58% of Latino voters not happy with how Trump is handling the economy. Again, those numbers are even worse among independents. 60% of Latino independents now disapprove of Trump's handling of the economy, putting his net approval at negative 34 points.
Damn.
Not good, very bad.
It's gotta hurt the big guy. I guess that's a Latin X on him.
Oh my God.
Okay, so listen guys, there's two parts of the story that I like. First of all, This is a hilarious thing to say. I love Latino voters. You know why? Because they're the most no-nonsense voters. Like others, they have like a million other priorities. Latinos primarily vote on the economy, according to the polling.
Yeah.
Right? That's not anecdotal. I'm just analyzing the polling. They seem to be the one demographic most laser focused on the economy. Depending on what their economic outlook is, that's how they vote, right? And so that makes sense, and that's logical, in my opinion. Okay, now I hope you care about other things too, but it certainly makes sense in how you view the world. Okay, so the second thing that's interesting is hence Latinos are an excellent barometer of how you're going to do with independence. Okay, so and overall polling. So in this case, he's losing them. Why? For the same exact reason that the Democrats lost them, because they're actually looking at the economy rather than your propaganda, right? So the Democrats told them, oh, Latinos, you gotta, Latinx, you gotta realize, we love you guys, okay? And that's why we let in a lot of undocumented immigrants, and Latinos are like, wait, I didn't ask for that.
I know.
Right, I asked for a better economy. And yeah, there's higher inflation, Biden and his team say, but don't worry about it because Donald Trump bad. And Latinos are like, I don't care. The economy sucks. Inflation is too high. I'm voting for Trump.
No, but GDP, Cenk, GDP good.
Yeah. Hey,
that was the other argument.
By the way, now Trump's making the same argument.
He is,
right?
he
and
is.
that's why he's now suffering with Latino voters, because he's now saying, oh, I got a lot of great propaganda. Okay, we got the gold card, we got Doge. Okay, I'm doing peace. I haven't done any tariffs, etc. Everything is good. And they're like, yeah, brother, but the economy hasn't improved at all. In fact, it's gone down. So where's the beef? Okay, so Latino voters not impressed by the marketing of Joe Biden or Donald Trump. They see the economy for what it is, and I love that you can't trick them. So Trump's running into the same exact iceberg that Biden ran into.
56% of those surveyed said that the economy is getting worse under Trump's administration. Only 19% said the economy is improving.
Because that's true.
And they don't feel like he's, looking out for the right people. So when asked if Trump's policies are prioritizing the wealthy versus the working and middle class, nearly 2/3 of Hispanic/Latino voters continue to say Trump's policies put the wealthy first at 65% today, up from 63% in February.
Because that's also true.
Exactly. So, yeah, look at the priorities in the big, beautiful bill. The tax breaks disproportionately benefit the highest earners. Yes, there are some tax breaks that help working class people, but certainly the bulk of the tax savings go to the rich. And that's on top of the fact that obviously, over recent decades, the tax system has overwhelmingly already benefited the rich, with them having to pay a smaller percentage of their income, their earnings, toward the federal government as opposed to working class Americans. Now, the group that commissioned this poll, I want to be fair, is a Democratic leaning group that focuses on Latinos, but other polling, because we wanted to cross-reference this, we didn't want to use a biased poll. So Kate Bettino, super producer, cross-referenced this poll with other polling, and that other polling indicates similar trends and even lower approval ratings for Trump. So surveys from the Pew Research Center, YouGov/Economist, CNN, and Reuters/Ipsos put his approval among Latino voters between 27% and 34%. So clearly he is in fact losing the support that he managed to gain with Latino voters in this last presidential election. And it's because guess what? Voters vote based on their self-interest, and in this case, people broke from the Democrats to support Trump because they believed he was actually going to do good things for them when it came to economic policy. So far, his actions have not bared that out at all.
Yeah, and look, if you're a Trump supporter, you could do the same thing as the Biden supporters did. You could try to deny reality from here until the cows come home, right? It's not going to work. At the end of the day, you either have a good economy or you don't. So proof is always in the pudding. And apparently Latinos realize that quicker than anyone else does, because the polling seems to indicate that more clearly. By the way, and it might be because they don't get propaganda as much from media, right? Because right-wing media will propagandize you towards Trump, mainstream media a lot of times propagandizes you towards Democratic establishment. Used to be the establishment of Republican and Democrats, more Democrats these days. And so if you haven't watched a lot of that propaganda, you just look at the economy and make a decision based on facts rather than the marketing of the two parties.
Well, since we're talking about the economy and how it's skewed in favor of the rich, why don't we get into this BBC interview that Bernie Sanders did, because it's abundantly clear to me that he's got 0 Fs to give when it comes to criticizing the Democratic Party.
Joe Biden, it turns out, and I want you to hear this because you're not hearing this side of the story. A lot of the people are saying it was Joe Biden's fault that Kamala Harris lost the election. Just Joe Biden. He should have gotten out earlier. Not true.
Not true. That was Senator Bernie Sanders, who thinks that former President Joe Biden's decision to run for re-election, even though he shouldn't have, and stay in the race until it was far too late for Kamala Harris to really run a robust campaign, shouldn't be considered at fault for Harris's loss. Now, look, I disagree a little bit with Sanders here because I do think that Biden was a factor in Kamala Harris's loss.
Right.
We're gonna get to, what he thinks is the real cause in just a minute, but what are your thoughts?
No, I totally disagree. Joe Biden screwed us and screwed us hard. He should have been a transition president, as he said, from day one. He certainly should have made that decision in 2022. By 2023, it was imperative, and we had a petition where I ran as a protest candidate. Anyone with eyes could tell he was too old. We ran a clip earlier in the show from Joe Biden in 2019, and he looked infinitely better, and not great, but infinitely better than he did by 2023. It was super obvious to everyone. This is the one thing that Bernie is massively biased about. He thinks that Joe Biden is his friend. I don't even believe that that's true at all. I think, and I know that I don't know if that breaks his heart, but I think that Biden's never really believed that Bernie was his friend. He screwed him over on every bill, and Bernie still doesn't realize that. And so he keeps defending Biden. And let's be honest, fair is shown America. I love Bernie, but both Bernie and AOC were the biggest advocates of keeping Biden in the race.
It's true, it's true.
And they were totally and utterly wrong.
That's actually addressed in Jake Tapper's and Alex Thompson's book, Original Sin. And it was because progressives felt that they had at least some influence over the Biden administration.
Which just wasn't true. It was a mirage.
I mean, look, if you want to compare Biden to previous, like if you want to compare Biden to Obama, okay, maybe you can make an argument, but that wasn't
It's
enough
a
influence.
super low bar.
It is a super low bar.
Oh, okay, you had a tiny more influence than when Rahm Emanuel was running the White House as chief of staff. Okay, that's not that impressive. The one thing that they got in there was Green New Deal stuff, but you guys didn't know that Trump was gonna take that out at the first possible opportunity. They're taking it out in the budget bill.
Yeah.
So all that is gone now. The progressive victories at this point are near zero with Biden.
So look, before we get to what Senator Sanders believes is the reason for Kamala Harris's loss, I do want to just hear him kind of like weigh in on. It's amazing because he was kind of quiet about this until now. It's probably because it's his last term in the Senate. He's not going to run for re-election, so he's just kind of letting the Democrats have it. And he brought this up. Take a look.
What I am telling you is not what the party wants. So if there was somebody from quote unquote the party, the establishment, would say, "Oh, Bernie Sanders, terrible, worst guy in the world."
Yeah,
I don't think that they're.
And it's worth reminding people they kept you out in 2016. In 2016, if you'd run, you probably would have won. You're smart.
There's a good chance that would have happened. And in 2020, we won the first 3 primaries, and suddenly everybody left the campaign and they rallied around Joe Biden.
That's true, and that kind of goes to your point, Cenk. I mean, during the 2020 primaries, Bernie Sanders was on a roll. He won Nevada big. He got people who had never voted before to the polls to support him in the primary. And at that point, the corporate Democrats panicked. Some sort of deal was made, and every Democratic candidate dropped out and backed Biden, which obviously destroyed Bernie Sanders' chances at winning the primary in 2020.
So Bernie's policies are the core of the Democratic Party: paid family leave, higher minimum wage, lower drug prices, etc. Right? So almost all Democrats agree to those core economic policies. But the corporate Democrats, which is the great majority of the party, the establishment Democrats like Biden and Hillary Clinton, hate those policies. They don't want to pass those policies. They claim they're incompetent because of the parliamentarian twisted their arm. They just couldn't find a way to pass bills that were over 80%, 90% in popularity. Liars. They work for their donors. Their donors told them, shut up and do not do any of those bills. Don't even propose those bills. And that same donor class despises Bernie because they got a sense that Bernie would actually do those bills. And they don't want those bills. They want the voters to believe they're gonna do those bills and then do a switcheroo and go, haha, just kidding. You got another corporate Democrat, they're not gonna do anything for you. And now the Democratic leadership's polling at 19%. What did we tell you? We were right, they were wrong. They told you they were geniuses who knew how to manipulate people and get, oh boy, we're really gonna do these bills, wing. We told you they were never gonna do those bills and that they were giant liars, and then at the end they would get caught. And here we are. They got caught because they were lying all along.
Now, let's get to who Bernie blames for Kamala Harris's loss in the presidential election.
A lot of the people are saying it was Joe Biden's fault that Kamala Harris lost the election. Just Joe Biden. He should have gotten out earlier. Not true. It was the fault of Kamala Harris and her consultants. Apropos of everything that I've been talking about this morning, they did not run a campaign designed to speak to the American working class. I ran all over the country trying to elect Kamala Harris and begged them, talk to the needs of the working class. Talk about raising the minimum wage to a living wage. Talk about real healthcare reform. Talk about building the kinds of massive amounts of housing that we need, putting checks on landlords' greeds on housing. But they used, their billionaire friends to get out and to basically say, Liz Cheney, who is I appreciate her courage, but she's a very conservative Republican. And, Kamala spent more time with Liz Cheney almost than with anybody else. What is that message out to working class people?
So while I disagree with Senator Sanders in regard to Biden's impact on the outcome of the 2024 presidential election, I wholeheartedly agree with him when it comes to his critiques toward Kamala Harris. And guess what? I'm not the only one who agrees with him, because get a load of how voters feel about the Democratic Party's vision for our economic future.
You would think after all of the waves, Kate Baldwin, after the last few months, the first 5 months of the Donald Trump presidency, right, the first 4 months of the Donald Trump presidency, that you expect that Democrats would have this massive lead on the economy. It ain't so, it ain't so. The party that is closest to your economic views, in November of 2023, it was the Republicans by 11 points. Now it's still within that range, still within that margin of error. Plus 8-point advantage for the Republican Party. How is that possible, Democrats? How is that possible after all the recession fears, after the stock market's been doing all of this, after all the tariffs that Americans are against, and Republicans still hold an 8-point lead on the economy? Are you kidding me?
No, the voters are not kidding. What is the vision for the economy from the Democratic Party? Like, I don't know what they stand for. No one knows what the Democratic Party stands for.
Yeah, so we just did a segment about how Donald Trump is losing Latino voters, independent voters, because of the economy's not doing well, right? Both sides think that they could trick people and come to find out that they can't, right? So first, on Bernie Sanders' point about how Kamala Harris lost the election, he's absolutely right. Back on track, okay? In fact, I'll read a member from Twitch here, Barely Funky, wrote in, yeah, but Harris had a lead after the debate and then she started listening to her election advisors. Exactly. That's exactly right, exactly right. I love having the smartest audience in the world, okay? So, and we tracked it for you guys as we were going through the campaign. She starts at a huge deficit because Biden handed her a dumpster fire, and then she does this populist proposals of going after price gouging, lowering housing prices. We're like, great, that's great. Picks Tim Walz. We're like, amazing, amazing. And she's rising, rising, rising. Then, as Bernie points out in the longer version there, she brings in Mark Cuban, as you saw there, Liz Cheney, and brings in the 1%ers and starts listening to her corrupt, dumbass consultants. And they told her, oh yeah, people love billionaires. Why don't you have more billionaires and celebrities around you, right? A bunch of idiots, losers. And Kamala Harris, since she has no mind of her own, yeah, I said it, go cry about it, all the Democratic ass kissers, okay? She's like, oh, my consultants tell me that the American people love the top 1%, and they love warmongers like Liz and Dick Cheney. Well, I'll wrap myself around them because, sorry, but you're not very good at this, okay? And your word silence isn't gonna help you. But by the way, Bernie, again, was Biden running a campaign on helping the working man? Biden wasn't even running a campaign. He didn't do the Super Bowl interview. Anytime you asked him, he's like, we defeated Medicare. He didn't, he ran no campaign. And anytime they asked him, and this is in the books now, this is documented by Biden insiders. When they said, look, we gotta have a good reason for why you should be president again, right? Why should you get reelected? And every time Biden be like, NATO loves me. The leaders of Europe, they are our allies. They think I'm a great president. And they're like, sir, you're running in America, not in Europe. And you're gonna need to talk about the average man. No. All of the elites love me. Oh my God, what a bunch of losers. So as Trump is having trouble because the economy has not at all improved, in fact, it's gone down, the Democrats aren't gaining anything. Why aren't they gaining anything? Because they still have Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer going out there and proposing nothing. Why don't you propose something?
No, they're proposing some stuff. I mean, Schumer is proposing that the Trump administration avoid a diplomatic, negotiation with Iran to prevent them from building nuclear weapons, and would prefer that we go to war with Iran. So he's proposing some stuff.
Yeah,
that would hurt our economy, but hey.
Literally no talk of helping the average working man. None, zero. Corporate Democrats are never going to learn a lesson because they're corrupt. They don't work for the average person. They work for the people who pay them. That's how corruption works. Same is true of the Republicans. Democrats just pretend more that they're gonna represent the working class, and then they smear it all over their face. Now, by the way, same thing's happening to Trump, because he's pretending that he's helping the working class and then isn't.
Right.
Isn't doing anything to help the working man. Instead, he's like, the most important bill is the one that gives tax cuts to the rich. Please give everything to the rich. Okay, go make the same mistake Biden did. See how it turns out for you.
We got to take a break. When we come back, we should weigh in on whether the new head of FEMA knows that hurricane seasons are a thing. We'll be right back.
All right, so let's go to our members. Lots of comments in here. Guam will capsize Dragon writes in, voters are mad at Trump for whatever and mad at Dems for allowing it to happen, both before and after the election. Yeah, that's because nobody has any champions on their side, right? Nobody's fighting for you. By the way, so we started a rebellion pack, got 3 great candidates. We go to fight for you guys. Our populistplank.com. All 6 poll at 65% or higher. They're all for the average working man. I've now talked to a number of mainstream media, reporters, newspapers, cable news, etc.
And they're excited, right?
Every single one of them. And by the way, in those papers, they all write about, oh, Democrats need economic populism. They're like, no, we're not gonna cover you. No way. No way we give you one line in the New York Times. No way. No way. Have you on cable news for the average man? No, we hate the average man. We're lying about, oh, we need populism. No, we loathe populism. We love the elites, and we're never gonna let anyone know that you're actually for the average guys.
Look, they just need a Joe Rogan of the left, and that'll save them.
I know, the same idiot losers who write, oh, the left wing needs a Joe Rogan. When they see a populist who actually wants to help the average guy, they're like, oh no. You weren't even in a jazz band. We're looking for someone whose father is a private equity banker and was at a jazz band in Stanford, okay? Because that's an outsider rebel. They don't know any populists. The people that work in mainstream media are the biggest elitist pricks you've ever seen. Every time they look at a normal person, they look straight down their nose at them. Like, oh, They're not even elite. If you ask the New York Times, will you quote an average person? They're like, no, they don't have status. But if they're a US congressman or someone important, if they're one of the elites, then we'll write down whatever they say. We won't even question it. But if you're an outsider, we'll crush you. Mainstream media is our enemy.
What do you have against jazz bands? What's up with that?
No, that's a long story. I'll tell you another time. It was a literal guy. Anyways, Shmeesky 66, whatever, but I like your name, it's fun. Says Bernie's not a fighter, never was. He's the dog that barks but never bites. But those teeth are for biting. He clearly doesn't like to mix it up, as evidenced by his decision not to go after Clinton or Biden during their respective campaigns. That's just a fact. Bernie is too nice a guy. And he didn't win because he refused to fight Hillary and Biden. I would have tore their face off. And by the way, look, I don't know how much I should tell you guys, but
you're too worked up. Just chill out.
Let's just put it this way. I asked Bernie, at least let someone else do the fighting for you. Nope. Don't touch the beloved Democrats. Don't. So Bernie, I love you, brother, but you drive me crazy. Okay, Nani Dragon says, I have ADHD and I'm not like Trump. He's lazy because he's a narcissist. Nani, I was gonna say that in the story. I knew somebody was gonna write in, but having ADHD isn't the problem. Not caring about the job is the problem, right? Sassy Dragon says, God damn it, he's so lazy, referring to Trump. I'm working on 25 hours right now since yesterday and he can't have a briefing? Billion% agree with you. X-Dog, the security dragon says, Mr. Rogers used to preach and show equality, but they didn't like that either. I looked it up, that's absolutely right. Jack Callahan said, at least Greta's trying to make a positive influence. I applaud her. I agree with you 100%, Jack. We'll be back. Back on TYT, Jing and Anna with you guys. Anna's got an update.
We have an update. So the story that we covered in regard to Elon Musk has been feuding with the House Republicans who, of course, passed Trump's big, beautiful bill. And Musk has kind of framed this argument as, look, I really care about government waste, and this is just adding to the federal debt, which is true. He's correct about that. But there's a part of his problem with the bill that he's not really being upfront about, and I want to kind of get into that because according to Axios reporter Mark Caputo, who spoke to two people in frequent communication with both, Musk has attacked Trump's bill after becoming irritated over 4 inflection points. Okay, so
here we go.
What are those inflection points? Well, they reportedly included Musk's inability to continue serving in his position as a special government employee beyond the imposed time limit.
Oh, so he did catch feelings about not being able to lead Doge. Okay, wow.
So there's more. So he wanted to stay there, but I guess Trump didn't make that happen. The Trump administration's refusal to run air traffic control systems from Musk's satellite internet company Starlink.
Oh,
another inflection
you didn't get
point.
the bribe you wanted. But I'll tell you what, this is silver lining is a little bit of credit to Trump not giving the donor what he wanted.
There's 2 sides to every story, and true, right? If this is accurate, true. Let me give you more. So Trump's decision to withdraw his nomination of Musk's ally Jared Isaacman to serve as NASA administrator, and tax credits for electric vehicles being cut from the bill, a blow to Musk's company Tesla, which has already suffered as a result of the billionaire's participation in the Trump administration.
And why does he care so much about the NASA administrator? Because he has SpaceX and Starlink. So if he puts his boy into NASA, he'll be getting a lot more contracts from the government, like worth billions upon billions, maybe hundreds of billions of dollars. And so then that'll be a good return on his investment of about 300 million that he put into Trump. So here, now we covered the story earlier and we told you, be careful. Remember, even though Elon is correct in saying this does add 4 trillion to the debt, he could have ulterior motives, and we measure the tax credits, and now we have the 3 other reasons.
Right, and I am now fully convinced that anyone who claims that they have an issue with something the government is doing because of debt is lying. There's always an ulterior motive. And in this case, Elon Musk didn't get all the cookies he wanted from his daddy Trump, who he bribed. To Trump's credit, I mean, he's easy to bribe, but apparently even he has his limits.
No, I'll give you a super ironic credit to Donald Trump on that. But first, credit to me.
Okay, of course. How dare we even consider credit for anyone else before first giving you credit?
Okay, the only person that actually cares about the deficit is me.
Right.
Okay, like it's in all of politics, I've never seen like sometimes the progressive side says, oh, deficits don't matter. Dick Cheney said deficits don't matter. Republicans go-to move is deficits, and then they get into office and add way more than the Democrats do because they give away trillions in tax cuts. But we have been consistent, kidding aside. Young Turks has been consistent on this for 20 straight years, right? Deficits do matter. The Pentagon is bloated. There is tons of pork barrel projects you could cut, not from cancer research, but actual graft from donors, right? That to give the pork to the donors. And yes, stop giving the rich and corporations tax cuts. Okay, now credit to Trump, fairest show in America. So this is an ironic credit. He always screws over his creditors, always. He went bankrupt 6 times.
That's a weird thing to get credit
No, I'm like, so I know, but listen, here's the upsides of it, okay? So, and every time he had this major bankruptcy and they'd say, oh my God, you didn't pay any of your debts back. He's like, yeah, that's good business. I take their money and then I don't pay them back. He's amazing. He doesn't care about other human beings at all, right? So that's a huge advantage, right? That way you could just keep taking from people. And he uses celebrity and marketing to keep getting new loans. Now, when he's the president, the ironic upside of that is Elon Musk gives him $300 million and then he expects billions back from NASA and et cetera. And Trump's like, what do you mean? I already got your money, sucker.
I gave you some cookies, but not all the cookies.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And then Sheldon and Miriam Adelson gave him even more, $337 million over 3 election cycles. And they're like, okay, now you do exactly as Israel orders you. You go bomb Iran. And he's like, yeah, except I already got your money. So, and Qatar just gave me a jet and made a $2 billion deal with my knucklehead son, okay? So, sorry.
Oh my God.
Okay. So the fact that he screws over his creditors every single time.
Credit where credit is due.
Hey, fairest show in America, because if he's screwing over his donors and not delivering for them, that's wonderful.
Oh, I love that, yeah.
That, you see what I'm saying?
I mean, I love the donor part, the creditor part.
No, the creditor part's terrible,
that's
of course.
Bad.
But the fact that he's carried that over and screwing over his own donors, no politician does that.
Right.
So
yeah, I guess
because Bernie doesn't even take the donor money. So and the Just Democrats don't take the donor money. So there's nobody to screw over.
Right. So so I guess Trump took it to the next level. I'll take the money and give you some of what you want in return, but not everything.
Yeah,
not everything.
Don't get me wrong. He gives them tax cuts.
Yeah.
Last time he was in office, giant tax cuts for the rich. Gives a bunch to his donors, but you got to keep the bribes coming. And if you don't keep them coming, sorry, but that was yesterday. And today, all of your priorities are out of the big beautiful bill, and now you're crying.
Yeah. All right, one more story before we wrap up and go to bonus episode for Operation Joy.
Very much authority to get everything done I need to do. There's somewhere south of 20% that decide that they are going to get in the way of change. You can ask anybody that those 20% of the people are a problem. And they have to be sidelined. So don't get in my way. If you're those 20% of the people, I will run right over you.
That was David Richardson. Yeah, Richardson. He's the new head of FEMA, and he looks mad. He looks like a mad guy. All right, look at that picture. Why are you so mad? Why don't you smile more, bro? What's going on? Anyway, he's making headlines. In fact, he made headlines about a month after warning his staff to not get in his way, and now he's making headlines because of the I don't know if I believe this. Allegedly, he claimed that he didn't know that hurricane season is a thing. How do you not know? I live in California. Hurricanes don't happen in California. I know hurricane seasons are a thing. I don't believe that he doesn't know.
So I don't know, we're asking in a poll in the live chat show 6 to 8 Eastern, Monday through Friday. Be part of the show, whether you think he's serious or joking. But on face alone, I don't think that guy ever jokes.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point, Cenk. That's a really good piece of evidence. Look at that photo.
And look at the angry speech. I'll run you over. Like,
yeah, that guy doesn't have a sense of humor at all.
Yeah, so you've seen me angry once or twice on the internet, right? So it's not like I don't know how to be angry, but then I also know how to joke around, right? And that guy looks like he's never joked in his life.
Okay, you know what? I like to be with the in crowd, and since the audience is saying that he was being serious, I agree with you, he was being serious. He doesn't know that hurricane season exists, which is insane. He is the current head of FEMA under the Trump administration, even though he hasn't been confirmed for the role. Now, according to 4 sources who spoke to Reuters, Richardson made the remark during an all-hands briefing this week. All-hands meetings usually go very smoothly and everyone's usually happy afterwards. Now, hundreds of FEMA staffers and interagency partners were present, and staff was unclear as to whether or not he was joking. So the Department of Homeland Security has responded to the report by saying, obviously, he was joking. Here's their statement. Despite mean-spirited attempts to falsely frame a joke as policy, there is no uncertainty about what FEMA will be doing this hurricane season. FEMA is laser focused on disaster response and protecting the American people. FEMA under Richardson is activated in preparation for hurricane season. However, Richardson's comment purporting ignorance about hurricane season spread among agency staff, spurring confusion and reigniting concern about his lack of familiarity with FEMA's operations, said 3 sources. And look, I do think that this is potentially an issue. He has absolutely 0 disaster response experience, which seems like you should have if you're gonna be the head of FEMA. But he was previously the assistant secretary for the Department of Homeland Security's Countering Weapons of Mass Destruction Office, and also served as a ground combat officer in the Marine Corps. So,
yeah, no, he has some experience now because he created an emergency and now he's got to manage it. Okay, but look, guys, putting the speculation aside about whether he was kidding or not, they were looking to cut FEMA funding.
Exactly, yeah.
So, and these are the guys who complain, oh my God, Biden's FEMA isn't giving to Trump supporters in North Carolina. So let's cut FEMA so you get less help. And we've had members write in all over, tornadoes, this, that, the other thing. And in their experience, FEMA was very slow to respond because I don't know whether it's this brother has no experience in it, doesn't care about it, or because they're looking to cut, and they don't really care about you. That's the important part.
Yeah, so according to a source who spoke with Reuters, the back and forth on updating the agency's disaster plan and a lack of clear strategic guidance happen to be some issues under his leadership. And yeah, we should be concerned, especially as these natural disasters happen more frequently, with more intensity. Not good.
Yeah, and remember, I mean, you want to talk about serious or not serious. Donald Trump is the guy who drew with a Sharpie the path of a hurricane because he lied about it. So he changed the path of the hurricane on the map that he showed the country.
Yeah.
And people got panicked because they thought they were in a hurricane zone when they weren't. And Trump thought, who cares if they're all panicking and they're all worried about that they're gonna die?
Keeping people on their toes, you know?
Yeah, it's more important that I be right. So give me a Sharpie. Okay, no, weather people, get out of here. The hurricane's now going this way. I mean, a bunch of goofballs. Do they care to make sure that you're okay in an emergency? Of course not.
Right.
All right, we gotta go. So members, yes, it's that time of week, okay? Operation Joy. A lot of folks have written in, some doozies in there. Let's all make each other happy. I know it's a fun, ridiculous exercise, but that's the point. It's supposed to be fun, all right? So come join us. You can hit the join button below if you're watching on YouTube, and if you point to it, it becomes more real. Or you can go through tyt.com/join. All right, we'll see you there in a minute.